Native American History Before Colonization 1491. Chronicle Part 1 Before 1491. The Americas were inhabited by thousands of diverse societies, each with its unique social, cultural, and political systems. Indigenous people across the continents formed clans, confederacies, alliances, and even empires, creating a rich tapestry of civilizations. These indigenous communities were interconnected through an intricate trade network that spanned every region of the Americas. Around 900 years ago, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy was established, marking it as one of the oldest representative democracies globally. Before this union, the 5 founding Iroquois nations were trapped in a vicious cycle of retribution and intertribal warfare. There were 5 nations at war, and the oral histories vividly describe acts of fratricide and cannibalism, indicating that human relations had completely disintegrated within their own communities. This breakdown was driven by a relentless cycle of revenge. Each Iroquoian chief was involved in retaliatory actions, but it was Tadadaho, the Serpent Chief, who stood out for his extreme ruthlessness. Tadadaho was a terrifying figure, known for having live writhing snakes in his hair. His twisted mind was reflected in his gnarled body and contorted fingers, and he possessed the power to control the wind and water, causing significant harm as the internal wars continued to devastate the 5 nations. A figure known as the Peacemaker arrived in a stone canoe, bringing a vision of a society built on harmony and peace. He traveled across Iroquois territory, spreading the great law of peace. The story of the Confederacy's founding is essentially the tale of the Peacemaker, a person from a related nation who entered the Iroquois territory and formed a connection with a leader named Iowata. Iowata, once part of his nation's warrior society, had undergone a transformation in his thinking and began promoting his own vision of peace. Tadadaho, viewing this as a betrayal, had each of Iowata's daughters killed one by one. The profound grief from losing his daughters drove Iowata to leave his community and seek solitude in the forest. Iowata's story isn't just about him. It's about the bond with his daughters and how their loss shaped his actions. The pain of losing one's daughters was deeply personal, as daughters were seen as posterity, carrying the lineage forward. After meeting the Peacemaker, persuaded Iowata that they should ally to seek peace among the nations. Despite his overwhelming grief, Iowata chose to collaborate with the Peacemaker to promote an intertribal alliance among the 5 warring nations. Given the respected role of women in Iroquois society, Iowata and the Peacemaker sought the advice of the mayor of Jigensays on how to bring the great law of peace to the Iroquois people. In the Iroquois worldview, women held authority equal to men in political matters. The Peacemaker's wife, Ianwatha, was the first woman among the Iroquois people to marry the Peacemaker. The chiefs of the 4 Iroquois nations supported the Peacemaker's vision of the great law of peace. The objective wasn't to expand power, territory, or wealth, but to establish peaceful and honest coexistence. However, Tadadaho continued to resist joining the alliance, unwilling to lose his power. Then an extraordinary event occurred. A solar eclipse covered the northeastern region of North America for 4 minutes on August 31st, 1142. After this significant event, Tadadaho agreed to join the Confederacy. The Onondaga were designated as the keepers of the central fire, a role they continue to hold. The year 1142 marks the founding of the Great Peace. Tadadaho was then named the main chief of the Confederacy, symbolizing the message that even the most malevolent person could be transformed into a force for good. The first message brought by the Peacemaker was that people should treat each other kindly and regard one another as family. This teaching has had enduring power, binding generations together for centuries. This ancient indigenous government remains an integral part of Iroquois society. Nearly 900 years after its inception, large urban centers began to develop from small farming villages as mass food production supported population and city growth for centuries. The Meroitic Kingdom thrived due to its distance from foreign invaders. Surrounded by fertile land, this Nubian kingdom sustained a large urban population. Meanwhile, the Assyrian Empire, a formidable society for centuries, demonstrated its power by constructing grand palaces and temples, extending its influence over much of the Middle East and Egypt before its eventual decline. The Inca Empire emerged as the largest civilization in the Americas by the early 16th century, governing millions of people from Ecuador to Chile. Over the past 5,000 years, city-states with dynamic political and religious rulers rose and held power in various parts of the world. The ancestors of the ambitious Inca rulers began as humble farmers in the Andean highlands. Around 900 years ago, their descendants established the largest indigenous society in the Americas 600 years ago, starting with a vision that mirrored other great civilizations. The Incas claimed that, after the world's creation at Titicaca, some of them emerged from a tunnel, leading from the lake to Pakratambo, the place of their origin. According to oral traditions, the first Inca family left Pakratambo in search of the ideal place to establish their homeland. Carrying a golden staff, they tested the soils, searching for a spot where the staff would sink into the ground. This occurred in Cuzco, at a specific site known as the Aku, or considered the center from which all the universe's vital forces radiated. When the Incas arrived in Cuzco, it had been inhabited by the Quilchi people for centuries. The Incas faced the challenge of dispossessing the local inhabitants to become the masters of the region. In their initial conquests, the early Inca rulers either expelled or absorbed the Quilchi people, establishing Cuzco as the logistical, political, and spiritual heart of their new empire. 600 years ago, the Inca Empire spanned much of modern-day Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, and Argentina. Home to 20 million people, the empire was organized into four primary roads known as the Tawantinsuyu, with Cuzco at the center. Leaders from cities and villages throughout the empire were required to build a house and reside in Cuzco for part of the year, within the quadrant corresponding to their region. The vast territory, stretching from northern Chile to Ecuador, encompassing nearly 80 provinces along the Andes, was unified by the Inca Empire. This empire, spanning approximately 2,000 miles from north to south, was built upon existing systems and expanded through conquest and population growth. To manage such an extensive and diverse region, Inca leaders persuaded regional chiefs to join their society by offering material wealth and elevated status. However, this allegiance came at a price. Many local leaders peacefully accepted the new governance, but those who resisted faced the might of the well-trained Inca army. The Sapa Inca, the emperor, held a hereditary position, passed from father to son, and was the central figure of authority. His wife, the Koya, was typically his sister, maintaining the purity of the dynastic line. The Inca ruling class functioned as an oligarchy of 10 royal families, who intermarried to preserve this lineage. Marriage between siblings and first cousins was not only allowed, but encouraged to keep the bloodline pure. The Inca royals also believed their emperors possessed immortality. Even in death, the emperor's body was thought to retain vital powers, serving political purposes. The mummified remains of past emperors, maintained by a group known as the Panacas, played a crucial role in the political sphere. This group acted as a form of Congress, advising and sometimes directing the Incas' decisions. It was believed that the deceased emperor could communicate through his relatives, guiding the current ruler's actions. The Inca social hierarchy was strictly organized, with the royal family at the top, followed by the nobility, which included priests, governors, and tax collectors. Below them were farmers, herders, servants, and slaves. The majority of the population was made up of peasants living in rural areas, while the cities held significant power and extracted labor taxes from these communities. In the Inca system, labor was highly valued, particularly for working on the emperor's lands. Inca officers would ensure that the crops produced were stored. In preparation for potential future shortages, the empire's mita system required tributaries to contribute labor, which in turn supported both the army during campaigns and the communities during difficult times, such as droughts. Everything within the Inca Empire was considered the property of the emperor. While the Incas were building their empire, the Maya society in Mesoamerica was flourishing through a network of city-states. These cities were connected by a sophisticated trade system that facilitated the movement of goods and services to millions of people. The Maya imported shells from the Gulf and West Coasts, prized green obsidian from Pachuca, basalt ceramics, and turquoise from the American Southwest. These goods traveled across challenging terrains, including mountainous regions and Gulf lowlands, to reach the Maya area despite lacking draft animals. The Maya transported all goods on foot, carried by human porters in exchange. The Maya offered access to the valuable jade source at the Motagua River. True jade, a rare material found in only a few locations worldwide, was highly prized among the Maya and other Mesoamerican elites. Jade was believed to be connected to the earth and ancestors, making it a significant material in rituals and a key item in the trade network. The Maya also established early pilgrimage centers, attracting outsiders interested in trade and religious practices. Beyond jade, the Maya traded a variety of commodities, both raw and manufactured. When the Spanish first encountered the Maya, they observed large boats or ships, multiple canoes lashed together, transporting ceramics, rubber, copal, chocolate, vanilla, and other goods that would later become staples in Western diets, all of which originated in ancient Mesoamerica. One of the most critical trade items in Maya society was maize. Central to the Maya diet and culture, maize was in high demand in urban centers and eventually spread to North and South America through trade with other indigenous communities. Corn's significance extended beyond food. It played a crucial role in the trade, fostering business relationships and contributing to the development of regional cuisines. Trade and barter systems have been vital for societies worldwide for thousands of years, with food often being a key item of exchange. In Africa, for example, salt was an essential mineral for diets and was traded for gold, ivory, and kola nuts. Spices like cinnamon, ginger, and turmeric became significant trade items, connecting Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, and shaping economic and cultural exchanges. Wine production, both for religious and social purposes, has also been a global practice for thousands of years, with its earliest origins traced back to Armenia 7,000 years ago. After 1492, the exchange of fruits and vegetables between North and South America and other parts of the world introduced some of the most widely used ingredients today. Concurrently, as the Maya dominated trade in Mesoamerica, indigenous people in North America were developing their trade networks, such as the Hopewell Exchange, where materials were transported by boat and across vast distances. Trade networks flourished, with much of the exchange following river valleys. In the southeastern region, various groups engaged in extensive trading, which facilitated significant contact between different communities. Goods were exchanged from as far north as the Great Lakes, down through the Mississippi River, reaching the Louisiana area. This interconnectedness meant that these communities were not isolated, but rather well aware of each other's activities. Even over considerable distances, travelers from distant regions brought valuable raw materials to the Ohio River Valley, where local artisans transformed them into finished products. These networks were well established, providing a familiar framework for interaction between groups. Within the Hopewell interaction sphere, a vast trade network emerged, with materials arriving from various locations. By 700 AD, groups were transporting obsidian from Wyoming, iron ore from Oklahoma, shells from the Gulf Coast, and mica sheets from North Carolina, all converging in the Ohio River Valley. One highly prized material was catlinite, a red pipestone used to create pipes that were traded widely, either as raw nodules or as finely carved finished products.